Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hollywood Impact with me, your host, Christian McCright, and your co-host, Eric Grubbs.
Hello, Christian.
So every new video, it's going to get slightly more intense.
It is.
Hello, Christian. So we're a little late to this party, but I did want to talk about Dune Part 2 today. Dune. That I have no external knowledge from at all. I saw like a YouTube video about some lore after I saw the second movie, but a little bit of background. The first movie came out like a few years ago, either like the year after like the COVID year.
Yeah, because I think it was just straight to HBO Max, wasn't it?
It was.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine was like, "Oh my gosh, like dude, like Dune Part 1's coming on HBO Max. We have to get together and watch it." And I was like, "I don't know what the heck this is." And it's kind of like, it feels like it's its own lore, kind of like Star Trek and Star Wars. Like it's in that category.
Yeah.
It's definitely its own thing. And then I watched the first movie and I was like, "What the heck am I watching? Like, what is this?" I was so confused. Like,
I didn't like the first one.
Really?
When I watched the first one, I'm like, oh no, because if I'm gonna watch the second one, I just hope it's different. But I didn't know what was going on either.
Yeah.
You know, they had all the weird names, Duncan, Idaho, and then
they had weird like American sounding names.
Yeah, and then they had other
sci-fi
names
world.
that you couldn't pronounce at all.
Yeah.
And I'm like, they're talking about this thing called spice. It's like people like.
It's like drugs, basically.
It's like drugs, but it also allows for space travel.
Sun nuggets, solar babies, la uva loca.
I watched this and I was like, I don't know what's going on. What is this? And then there's like the weird like sounds at like the beginning of the movie. It's like wah wah wah. Yeah, and that was a horrible impression, but
I know what you meant, though.
But yeah, I tried. But I mean, everyone knows what it is now. And after the first movie, I was like, okay, I guess I'm excited because as soon as it was done, it was like, oh, by the way, there's going to be a second one.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, well, I don't even understand what I just watched. There's like these kind of houses, kind of like Game of Thrones-ish, but it's all in space. It's not like
It's
Star
in
Wars.
space, but it's not in space.
Yeah.
Like, I don't remember any space travel.
No.
I think they're just on this desert planet.
There's
the
like
whole time.
there's spaceships.
There's ships,
but there doesn't really have to do anything with space.
Space!
Yeah.
It's like just hopping from planet to planet.
Right.
Like all the stuff happens on the planets, and so like going into all the spy stuff and like the Atreides, the Harkonnens, and like their suits like glow and like glitch out, and that's like part of their protection.
Like their armor.
Yeah, like their exo armor sort of stuff. And so there's so much going on. And then the Bene Gesserit, the people who speak, like the voice or whatever. And then the second movie came out. Okay, this is where we're really getting into it.
Okay.
And it changed my perspective entirely. This movie is. It's a masterpiece, I think, but not in like a traditional sense.
Mm-hmm.
I think that this movie kind of wills itself to be a masterpiece. And like to kind of explain that, I think is this movie actually a 10 out of 10? No. But this movie, for sure, from start to finish, it believes that it's a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, it's pretty close,
It
too.
tells you that it's a 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
It spends its entire time convincing you we are epic because we believe it, because we say we are. And that's something that, like, how many movies do you know of that actually have accomplished something like that? Who is able to, like, you have no prior knowledge at all. You have elements of other big projects, big sci-fi stuff. And, there's books out there, but come on, I don't know a single person who's read the books.
I'm not reading a book.
Yeah, I'm not gonna read the book.
I'm not going to.
Like, I'm a visual guy. I'm not super big on reading anyways, but I can think of very few movies, if any, that, especially after a weird part one, gives you a part two and basically like forces you like to be on its side.
Yeah.
It's so strange.
I agree. Like, probably about 10, 15 minutes into part two, it hit me. It's like, oh, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. I don't know
Wow.
what it was. It was just weird.
Yeah.
But it made me like, this is a different level of sci-fi.
It is.
Dune is. It's you've got your Star Wars, you've got, Transformers type sci-fi stuff. Dune it's on its own different playing field. And I have a cousin who's watched the original, like the '84 version, and I think he's read the books, and he's a different type of sci-fi guy. He's in it. He's into the deep cuts.
Really?
And I think Dune is kind of like the king of the deep cut sci-fis, maybe, if that makes any sense at all. But it's just it just feels totally different than any other sci-fi I've ever watched.
It does, and I think that works in its favor. It definitely stands out. And the director, I'm going to butcher this name, Denis Villeneuve. I think
Denis
I got
Villeneuve,
it.
I think you nailed it.
Sweet, let's go.
Nailed it.
Let's go, first try.
Good. First try.
He reminds me a lot of Christopher Nolan. Like, if someone would have told me that Christopher Nolan did these movies, I wouldn't have not believed that.
Have you seen some of his other works, his other catalog, like Sicario?
I have not. I've heard that
Like
movie's
Sicario
good.
is a different kind of action movie.
Yeah.
It just hits different. And when you're watching it, you're like, there's just something that's different about this movie compared to other action movies. So, yeah, this guy can make a movie.
I've seen clips of that movie, but I've never seen the full movie. I heard it's so good.
Oh,
I
is.
do want to see it. But yeah, the only thing that kind of really bothers me about this movie is the guy who plays Paul.
Chalamet?
Yeah, Timothy
Chalamet.
Timothy Chalamet. Apparently, his real name is like Timothée Chalamet, and he's like French or something like that.
Weird.
Honestly, it's Timothée, but I would not oblige you to say it like that. And it could be Timothy or Timmy or Doug.
I like your funny words, Magic Man.
Yeah. Gosh, just have a regular name that we can all.
Come on, man.
Wow. But he's very unassuming in his role. He's very thin. He looks a little malnourished.
Yeah.
Like in a sense, like not like a disrespectful way, but
Right.
but he is smaller in stature.
He's kind of like Luke Skywalker in New Hope, maybe.
Yeah,
He's
but Luke
kinda
Skywalker
weird.
had the Force though. The Force kind of
Not in that way. He didn't have it yet.
well,
he's
yeah, I
getting
guess.
it.
Well, like in A New Hope, Luke is like
He's like, I want to go to the town.
I'm just gonna be
whining all
honest.
the time.
Yeah.
I don't want to go to the...
My gosh, that clip is so good. What a meme.
Take these two over to the garage, will you? I want them cleaned up before dinner.
But I was going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
Luke in A New Hope. I'm sorry, this is like a hot take or something, but I don't like A New Hope very much.
You need to leave.
I just don't.
How dare you?
And because I like everything except Luke Skywalker in that movie, and I don't feel like I should feel that way. But no, like I actually think that Paul is more similar to Anakin Skywalker than he is Luke Skywalker.
Okay.
He has like those darker tendencies.
Yeah.
You kind of see it a little bit in the first movie where he tries to do things that he's not supposed to do, and he kind of has a knack for not always following orders, kind of forging his own path. And in the second movie, it really shows. And the point I was going to get to was that he may look small in stature, but you know the movie's good when it convinces you that Timothée Chalamet is intimidating.
Right.
Because he ends up like getting more use of the voice. He drinks like the water of life, or the juice of the shalai.
Whatever. The nectar of the sand. I don't know.
Yeah, the nectar of the worm.
What did he say?
I beg your pardon.
That's awful.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
so
terrible.
sorry. But he completely flips a switch.
Yeah.
And when he goes into the southern tribe and he's like walking through the crowd and he's just like slowly like kind of looking back and forth to people and people are parting ways for him, that is, I think, the singular moment where I'm like, this is epic.
Yeah.
Like there is something about this that like I don't think anybody can really just put a finger on. It's crazy.
Well, and I didn't expect it either. I didn't expect him to make that turn in the movie just because, again, I have no prior knowledge of it.
Right.
So that was a surprise in itself to see him do that.
Right. His girlfriend Chani, played by Zendaya, she's pretty good in this movie.
Yeah.
She surely stands out. Javier Bardem. He's really good in this movie.
yeah.
Very charismatic, and he's very like he's like the follower of the Messiah.
He's a believer.
Complex.
He
He's
is a
sure a believer. That's part of what I want to get into here pretty soon. And Rebecca Ferguson. She is one of my favorite actresses out there right now. She's in Mission Impossible.
Impossibles, yeah.
She's in a lot of stuff, but like she is a great actress, she shows a lot of her chops in this movie. But like for some place that has like a very bland terrain, very bland setting, just nothing but sand. The sandworms make things much more interesting, and I think it's cool how like you're trying to spend the movie trying to figure out, is the prophecy real or is it not? And then like he calls the sandworm, you like the dum dum dum, and all of a sudden Javier's like, he called the granddaddy sandworm, and it's like, not that big, you know, you weren't supposed to ride that one that big. But all of those pieces put together, and the way that after he drinks the water of life and he's almost like Doctor Strange. Like he can like kind of see different futures, and he's like, there's one way we're going to do this, and yada, yada, yada. And then the Harkonnens are still there. They have that planet that's like all black and white.
Yeah.
My gosh.
The
how cool
visuals
is
on that were really neat, I
How
thought.
cool is that?
Yeah.
So cool. I'm a big fan of like grayscale stuff. So like whenever you show clips or like flashbacks in grayscale, I'm all for that. Love that. It's like crack to me. So not...
How would you know what
I don't know what
crack
crack
is?
but I'm making
You
an
say
assumption.
that, but I don't think you've done crack, Christian.
No, I have not done crack.
Good.
If you listen to our last video, I've never been to a bar. I'm not going to a bar. So I don't know what crack is. But anyways, so I don't know how else I compare it to Dr. Pepper, I guess.
Yeah, it's really good.
That's like my vibe.
McDonald's Dr. Pepper.
Oh my gosh, please sponsor us. I would love a Dr. Pepper sponsor. But all these pieces placed in the way they are make this movie epic in its own right. And another weird part is Christopher Walken as the Emperor.
Christopher Walken.
So how is the army
he's
of
the
the
emperor.
South? So funny.
He rode the worm.
My gosh, that's so funny. So like there are some weird parts in there, but what I really wanted to get into, I think like the meat of the actual subject of this movie, and this is what I want to get your perspective on. I think this movie has a lot of like subcontext about the impact that religion has on a society. I mean, come on, if you break it down, the northern people, okay, all right, just think of this in the U.S. perspective. The northern people are less likely and laugh at people who are religious. And the southern people, you know, southern part of the U.S. has a lot more people who are like Christians and things like that, like us.
Okay.
And so, and part of some of the jokes and some of the plot points they actually merge in this movie is like how the Northerners view the Southern tribes as like crazy cultist fanatics.
Exteriors.
You know, like they see everything that Paul does as like, oh, he's the Lisan El Gaib, he's the Messiah, he's whatever. And all the Northerners are like, no, he's probably just some guy. And that spawned so many memes of like Paul says like no, like I don't think I'm that guy, and it's like that's exactly what the Messiah would say, and
Yeah.
and like as it is written. But I wanted to get your perspective on how you thought that like how religion impacts a culture based on, you know, like that, you know, like having a divided audience like that, and how the parallels that you see between that and the real world.
Oh, sure. Yeah, there's obviously some parallels between, you know, not only the Christian religion, but probably, you know, the Muslim religion too, or even the
For sure,
the
yeah.
Jewish faith, you know, looking for that savior and whether or not he actually is. So
Yeah.
it's going to be real interesting to see how this ends up in the next movie. I think the next movie is actually, from what I understand, is going to be entitled Dune Messiah.
Yeah.
Now, whether or not he's going to be the Messiah, I don't know. I don't know where they're going to go with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can definitely see those parallels. But it makes me I don't know if that was, you see, that was probably written in the 80s. So it's kind of a timeless type subject that I could see,
subject.
carrying through the decades like this. And in today's time, it's just very appropriate, I guess.
I think it is. I
Yeah.
think it's pretty appropriate, especially since like I have a lot of coworkers who are a little bit more skeptical of religion.
Sure.
I have friends who are also that way. So like even in the Midwest, we still have people like that all around. But I do think that movie touches on that fact of people who are trying to see the signs, see all that's happening, and trying to decide like, is this actually, the person who is our savior, or is this just
A false prophet.
or is it or is it something that they're using just to imprison the people? Because that's what the Northerners, kind of like today, kind of view it as. Oh, people use religion to enslave and imprison and restrict people. Whereas like if you're a Northerner, you are liberated, you are free, you are a Fremen. Where in the South, it's like, no, like it's all about, we are waiting for the return or the first coming of the Messiah.
Yeah.
And the difference between those two cultures and the parallels that has with our culture, I think was something that I didn't really gather until a little bit later. But I was like, this is the most fascinating thing about this movie for me, besides the fact that it convinces you that it's a masterpiece. But yeah, I did want to hear some of your thoughts on how that affects our culture as well as it does that movie's culture.
What do you think about the white savior complex
The white savior
that we have?
complex?
Well, listen, like you have the Fremen in the movie, and you've got this white guy, Paul.
Yeah.
And he's claiming, or I don't know if he's claiming it or whatever, to be the Messiah of these people. And it's like, why does it have to be the white guy that's going to save everybody? I've heard that kind of argument made too. White
that's
Messiah
fine.
complex.
Yeah, that's definitely a really touchy subject for sure. I actually didn't pick up on that until just now. That's really interesting.
I need to rewatch this movie.
I need
It's
to,
been a couple of weeks, since it came out, maybe more than that. But it is something that deserves a rewatch. But I think there's a lot of things that you'd pick up on a second or even third viewing.
I think so too, and that's what makes part of this movie so good, is that you feel compelled to watch it again, because one, you may have missed some things, and two, it's just entertaining. And having Paul, who's clearly an outsider, who's clearly not of them, and he's trying to become Fremen. He spends the whole time being like, oh, I'm not the savior, I'm not the Messiah. Then he drinks the water of life. Then he goes to the Southern Temple, and he's like, I am.
He's full throttle at that point. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And that's where I kind of see the parallels between him and like Anakin Skywalker. Is like, oh, now that like he's had like a taste of this power, now he's like, I know what's best for everyone. I know what's best for myself. And so therefore, like, I'm gonna have to take control of the situation. And so I kind of want to see, where that goes.
Yeah.
And I heard that Dune 3 may not even get made. The director said he'll only make it if, quote, it's better than the second one. If it's better than the second one, then holy cow, like we're in for a ride. But yeah, while all this is happening, his mom is working behind the scenes, kind of like almost like scheming of sorts, slowly like trying to convince people that he is the Messiah. So, but anyways, that's just something that I just
and I'm not trying to be blasphemous in any way.
Yeah.
But it's almost like a darker version of Mary and Jesus. You know what I
Almost,
mean?
yeah,
because
almost.
Mary was the last that would have been manipulating anything.
Right.
And Chalamet kind of plays it as like, what if Jesus was dark?
Yeah.
What if Jesus was like angry?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And again, I'm meaning no disrespect or anything like that, but that's just kind of
not in a disrespectful way at all, but almost like how the Jewish culture wanted to perceive their version of the Messiah was like they weren't expecting Jesus. They were expecting someone to come in and conquer, to come in and take over. And so I think maybe that's more along the lines of what we're seeing.
Sure.
And then his mom is like, no, he is the Messiah, and this is why. Here are the signs. Here's what the prophecy says. Here's what he's doing. And true, like he's checking all those boxes, but you still wonder in the back of your head, like, is this like is this actually a prophecy? Yeah, I mean it's crazy.
Yeah.
So much to unpack with this movie. But
Oh,
it's
yeah,
so
for sure.
cool. But that being said, I'm gonna give this movie a 9.
A 9?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
9's fair. I'm gonna give it.
Gosh.
I'm gonna give it an 8.5 based on one viewing. Off
Yeah.
the second one now. I want to leave room for that to change.
Leave room for growth.
Leave room for growth if I watch it again. But no, an 8.5 is a solid score for me.
No, that is. I mean,
So yeah, it's for sure 8.5.
yeah. I'm excited to see if the third part gets made. I really want to because it ends on a cliffhanger. I
Yeah.
want to see more. I want to see what happens. So for sure. But thank you so much for coming on to talk about this one. This has
Yep.
been another fun one.
Oh, for sure.
All right. I hope you all enjoyed this, and we will see you next time.